Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and today I'm going to be showing you all with a couple methods how you can upgrade the hard drive on your modded Xbox if you have a hard modded console. Now, first of all, let's get this out of the way. This tutorial here is going to be exclusive to original Xbox owners who already have a hard modded console. If you have a soft modded console, there is a separate video for you, which I can also link down below in the description, so don't worry, you're not left out in the dust, but you all have a different method if you have a soft modded system. This is not going to be showing you how to hard mod your system. This is assuming you already have hard modded it with either a custom BIOS on the TSOP flash or a physical Modchip installed and flashed with a custom BIOS already on the console itself. As you can see right here, this console has been modified. It's using a different dashboard. This just Unleash X showing here as default, but it also has a hard mod with a Modchip installed in the system. So some people might be asking as well, how do I know if I have a soft mod or a hard mod? Well, that's quite easy. If you don't know, literally boot up your Xbox and you should see something different. I'll actually reboot mine here real quick just to show you all the immediate difference on boot. So check this out, we have a different animation, different flubber color, different everything, and Executor rocks my box. Now yours is probably not going to be as dramatic as mine. However, the best way to tell if you have a hard modded system, aside from opening up the system and seeing if there's a chip in there, mainly is from the custom BIOS, which is how the hard mod happens. If you turn on your system and it displays anything different than the stock green X, the black background, and saying Microsoft at the bottom of the screen when it boots up, then you have a hard modded system. As you can see, mine was all different colors. Mine said Executor instead of Microsoft. If you have Evox, there's going to be the Evox logo in the top left-hand corner of the screen. The BIOS is just going to look different on boot than from a regular system. If you have a regular system BIOS, everything looks normal on boot, just like a regular stock Xbox, aside from the dashboard. You have a soft modded system. But if yours somehow looks different, like it has a different badge, different colors, different logo, it has anything added to that initial boot up sequence, you have a hard modded system. So getting into this, assuming that you have a hard modded system here, we're going to need a few things. First of all, we're going to need another hard drive, of course. We're also going to need a few different tools depending on how you're going to be upgrading and what you're going to be using, and also a blank DVD because you will need a installation or recovery disk of some kind. For the rest of this, let's go ahead and get over to the computer so we can get started. So over at the PC, we're going to need one of those installation disks I've talked about. There are several out there, but the one I recommend the most is HeXEn. Now this has had a few different updates and you can get it from different sources. I'm going to be linking this to ogxbox.com down below in the description. This is a web form, it's a great website, and you do have to log in unfortunately to get the links here. I'm not going to be linking the direct links down below in the description, so you would need to sign up on here, but it's free, easy enough to do, and there is a lot of awesome content here on this site that I can absolutely recommend. I'm really not affiliated with it aside from just having an account on here and enjoying the site, but I recommend checking it out here. Either way, at the moment while I'm recording this, HeXEn 2018 is the latest version. So I'd recommend getting the latest version of HeXEn and just downloading it. It comes in a RAR file, so you'll need a way to extract that. Next up, you'll need a way to burn it. So assuming you have a blank DVD on hand, the next thing I recommend is image burn if you don't have any burning programs available. Now for this tutorial, there's two different methods I'm going to show you how to upgrade your hard drive. The first one is going to involve cloning your hard drive. The second one is going to involve just creating a hard drive from scratch. I'm doing both of them on here because some people might want to back up their data and all that stuff and transfer it over, so you can follow that if you want to just clone your drive. If you don't care and you just want to wipe it, that's the easier method, and I'll show that second. But first of all, if you are going to clone your drive, you will need a way of powering two drives at once on your original Xbox. Now, what you can do is you can do the common method and get one of these 4-pin Molex male to 2 female power splitters here, where essentially what you do is you unplug the power cable for the hard drive from your Xbox, and then you hook it up into the left right here, and then plug the other 2 ends here. One of them plugs into your old hard drive, one of them plugs into your new hard drive. That way you're able to use one Xbox to power 2 different hard drives during the process. Now, if you use a IDE drive, that's about all you need. However, if you're going to go to a Sata drive, like anything Sata, you're going to need another 2 things, and this is not just for cloning, this is just going to be if you're going to a Sata drive. First of all, you're really going to need the 80-wire IDE cable. I'm going to link all these down below in the description. Some people have said they were able to use the default 40-wire cable. I have not had luck with that, so you will need to get one of these. They're a couple bucks, and then just upgrade it and replace your old 40-wire cable to the 80-wire cable if you're going to use a Sata drive. On top of that, you're also going to need an adapter. So I'd recommend getting something like this here. This is simply a Sata to IDE adapter card essentially, and you're going to need to look for a few things. First of all, on the left, you can see those jumper switches right there between master and slave. You're going to need those because when you set this up, if you're doing a clone, for example, you're cloning to a Sata drive, you need to set that jumper to slave during the process. And then once you swap that newly set up cloned drive as your permanent drive, you need to switch that back to master. It's also recommended to look, if you look at the top right corner here, look for something that has these 2 capacitors on hand. So again, if you're going to be going to Sata, you're going to need the adapter card and the 80-wire IDE cable upgrade. If you're going to be cloning your drive, you will need those 2, well, with Sata. But on top of that, you're going to need, regardless if you use IDE or Sata, one of these 4 Molex adapters. So now with all that out of the way, this is going to be your HeXEn 2018 file. All you need to do is extract it to wherever you downloaded it and wait a few seconds for the ISO to extract. Next up, open this ISO in your favorite burning program. I'm going to be using ImageBurn, and I don't have a blank DVD in my drive because I've already burned this, but all you need to do is pop a blank DVD in your drive. You're going to need to set it to the slowest write speed possible on your burner, and then just click this to write the DVD over. Should take a few minutes or so, and from there you're good. Now, we also need to physically set this up on the original Xbox itself. I actually showed how to do this on my softmod tutorial, so I detailed at least how to open up the Xbox, how to set it up for cloning the system, and I'm going to show you the cloning method first. So that's what we're going to do. I'm actually going to drop that clip into the video here, and then we can continue on with the cloning process. So first of all, to perform some surgery on the system here, yes, we do have to open it up. For this, you do need to remove a few screws and move a few things to get everything sorted on here. First of all, in order to do this, you're going to need a T20 or Torx 20-bit. So make sure you have a kit available and make sure you have, the sizes will be Torx 10, 15, and 20. First, take your T20 bit and you're going to remove these 6 screws. There is 1 screw under each of these rubber pads right here, which you can just remove by kind of bringing that back halfway. And remove each one. And there's 1 screw right here under each sticker, which you can kind of just puncture and remove that way. Next up are the T10 screws. There's going to be 1 T10 screw on the right side of the DVD drive inside there. There's going to be a left one on this side, and there's going to be one right here underneath this IDE ribbon cable. So remove all 3 of those. Once that's done, you can start freeing the Molex cable for your hard drive, and also start removing this big black piece which contains the hard drive. Right here, it's going to be kind of put into this lip, so you want to pull all 4 of those cables out, so you have a bit of freedom to work with. And I'm not going to fully show this, but mainly here on this side, there are two T10 screws, and on the other side, there's another two T10 screws underneath here. You are going to need to remove those once it's time to swap out this hard drive. However, we're not going to be doing that yet. So there's kind of a method that you need to use to comfortably get this all done, because you are going to be performing something called a hot swap, which means that you're going to have the hard drive hooked up and you're going to have to unplug the IDE ribbon cable from the DVD drive and plug it into your new hard drive while you have all of this set up here. So the way I can kind of recommend doing this is to take your hard drive, kind of elevate it up like so. Something like that will work out. This is going to look like a mess while you're doing it, but trust me, in the end it's fine. And then you can remove the DVD drive and kind of fit it somewhere like that. I want to make sure everything is also flat, or somewhat flat, while doing this. But something like that would work, or even if it's a little bit slanted, it's fine. So now when it comes to the setup, in order to remove this 4 Molex cable in the back, it's honestly going to be easiest to unscrew the hard drive here. So you just unscrew the hard drive, you can pop it out, and then once the hard drive is free, you can actually remove the 4 Molex adapter right there. And then what you can do is inside of that, you can plug in your Y splitter and then plug in one end into this hard drive and plug in the other into your other hard drive, or plug it into your adapter. Now for this method, I'm going to be using, again, this hard drive, and I'm going to be using this here. And this is just a way to hook up an internal hard drive to your computer using USB 3.0. The reason why I'm going to be doing this is because I just have this available and it's a lot easier for me to use this. I will have this linked down below in the description, but quite honestly, I don't recommend using this because for this purpose, it's complete overkill. I'm just using this because I own it and I've used it for other things, but if this is all you're going to use it for, I don't recommend purchasing it. So what I'm going to do for this is, again, let's get everything kind of situated like that. There we go. I've flipped the Xbox around to make this look a little bit easier, but what you'll need to do is, again, you're going to need to have your method of powering this up. If you're using an external method, I'd recommend turning on the hard drive before you turn on the Xbox. And then here, you could just put your hard drive on top of the DVD drive like this. If your hard drive came with a anti-static bag like this, I would recommend putting that between the two. If you don't have it, I've seen plenty of people do this without using the anti-static bag, and it's fine, but I'm just going to use the anti-static bag for that because it's going to be a little bit safer. But what you'll need to do is, when I tell you all to do this in the dashboard, you only have about 4 or 5 seconds or so to do this, and I'd recommend while the Xbox is off getting some practice doing this. But at one point, you're going to turn on the system, you're going to have this hard drive here, and just sit in the dashboard for a little bit. And before you run Chimp, you're going to need to hot swap. So you need to disconnect this IDE ribbon and connect it to your new hard drive. What that entails is you need to unplug this cable, which is a little difficult to do. Unplug it like so, and then plug it in to your hard drive. And then from there, you can run Chimp and continue on with the install. So for this, I am going to unplug it from the hard drive again and plug it back into the DVD drive. I recommend if you've never done this before, get a feel for it and get some practice doing this a few times while your system's completely off, because again, you have a few seconds to do it and you want to make sure you're not damaging anything in the process. But once you're all comfortable and situated, go back over, hook up your Xbox with everything hooked up as it should be. Again, you're going to need your hard drive and disk drive looking something like this. You're going to need to have your hard drive hooked up to either the Y adapter if you used one, or you're going to need it powered before you turn on your Xbox, and then you can continue on. So let's go ahead, hook this up to our TV, and continue with the rest of this tutorial. So first of all, this is going to be for the cloning process here. What you need to do is take your HeXEn disk, pop it into your Xbox, and then launch it. This does take about a minute to boot up, and it will also turn the LED light on your Xbox red. So if you're sitting at a black screen like this with a red LED, don't worry about it, just wait for a minute or two and the menu for this should pop up. Once your HeXEn fires up, what you need to do is go down to For Install Applications, Install Chimp, say yes, and let it install Chimp. And that's about it first. The next thing you need to do is install Xp Partitioner just in case you want to mess around with your partitions. So you can go to Install Applications to E, and it's going to install a few other applications. Just say yes to this and let it do its thing. And now with all that done, just go back, and what I'd recommend is eject the disk from your Xbox, turn it off, and now get your second hard drive situated. So you're going to need to have both hard drives powered up. You're going to need to have your secondary drive, the one you're cloning to, make sure that is either in slave or cable select mode. Make sure that's going to be powered, and then of course have your stock drive, the one that contains the OS and everything, the one that you're working with. Make sure that that is hooked up as normal and it is in master or cable select mode, one of the two, because when we fire up our Xbox, we're going to start the cloning process. Alright, so once you're back at your Xbox, first of all, you might notice a bit of a downgrade here. That is because if you're going to be going with this method here, you will need to make sure that you have composite cables available. Now, you might be able to do this without composite cables. However, I did notice that when I was doing component with this, I couldn't get anything to display on Chimp after a certain point. So for the best method of getting everything to display properly, you might have to downgrade temporarily to composite cables. So with that all being sorted here, assuming you'll be able to see everything properly, you have all this hooked up, the next thing we need to do is make sure we have everything properly situated. So make sure you have your hard drives hooked up, both the regular hard drive you're booting off of, as well as the hard drive you want to clone to. Again, the clone hard drive has to be in either slave or cable select mode, and then make sure both of them are powered using whatever method you're using. Again, I'm using a external power method, but some people could be using maybe another Xbox, some people could be using a Y-splitter as well. For this next step, while we're sitting at the dashboard, I would recommend sitting here for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, unplug the IDE ribbon cable from your DVD drive and plug it into the hard drive that you want to clone to. You only have about 4 or 5 seconds to do this transfer, so do it carefully, but also make sure you're a bit quick with it. So now with the hot swap itself done, what you need to do is go over to wherever your applications are housed and load up Chimp. It's going to tell you here to connect the slave hard drive and press A. Since we've already done that, just press A to continue. Once you get to this point asking you to press enter, press the A button on your controller. And now go down to TSOP Chipped Xbox, say yes, and it's telling you here that if you have a soft modded Xbox, make sure you do not unlock your master hard drive. That's not going to matter to us, but you can say yes there. Now, first of all, what you need to do is click or select here, scan physical IDE drives by highlighting it and pressing A. And as you can see, I have 2 drives here. I have my Western Digital 8GB drive, which is up at the top, and on the slave drive, I have my Hitachi 250GB drive, which is also unlocked. Now, the nice thing is, with this being a chipped Xbox, you do not have to worry about relocking your drive, so I'm not going to be relocking the drive here at the end of this tutorial or once this is cloned, hence why both these are unlocked. But what you need to do is press OK, and now go down to clone from master to slave and press A. Make sure selective is picked right here. The only time you want to do full disk is if you're copying between the same storage space of drives, so like an 8GB to another 8GB, but since we're going from 8 to 50, make sure you do selective and press A. Now this is going to be which partitions you want to clone. Since this is a stock drive, I only have C and E partitions. So just go ahead and only select the ones with the partitions you have on your source drive, your master drive. Since I only have C and E, I'm going to pick that and press A. And next, you need to pick what you want to do with the rest of your setup here. So some things you can do is, if you want, you can split between F and G evenly. That's something I'd recommend doing if you have like a 2 terabyte drive, for example. In general, it's not recommended to go past 1 terabyte per partition. Since we have a 250 gigabyte drive here, that's not going to be an issue. So I'm actually going to pick F occupies all available space, meaning C drive stays default, E drive stays default, and everything else will go to the F drive. So you can select whatever you want and press the X button to move over your option, and then press A. Now once everything is the way you want it to be, just pick yes to confirm this, and it should start formatting your slave hard drive. Once that's complete, it's going to begin to clone your C partition, and then it's going to clone over your E partition. This should take less than 10 minutes or so. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the point where this finishes up. Alright, so this is nearly done cloning here, as you can see. Once it's here, you have the option to lock your slave hard drive. I personally never lock my hard drives on modified hard-modded consoles, so I'm actually going to say no to this. If you want to, you can say yes, and you can attempt to, but I'm just going to say no, because I also know for a fact that this hard drive does not lock. But once that is all done, congratulations, you have your hard drive cloned over. So all you need to do is go down to Other Options, and go to Shutdown. Now all you need to do after you shut down your Xbox is unplug it from power, take out your old hard drive, replace it with your new hard drive. If you've messed around with the jumper settings, remember to either set your jumper to cable select or master, and that's going to be on either the IDE hard drive or on the pin settings on the adapter if you're using a Sata drive. So go ahead, shut down your system, make that change, and then turn it back on. Alright, that's looking much nicer. We're back over to the component output here. And as you can see, we now have the same settings, except we now have a F drive and it has the rest of my storage. If you do need to mess around with your partitions, I can show you how to do that. Go down to wherever your applications are stored and load up Xp Partitioner. From here, do not touch any of these standard partitions. What you need to do is make your changes in the extended partitions. So to do that, you just press the A button to cycle through these options. So for example, that kind of splits them, that makes them even, that only gives you about 120 gigs, that just sends everything to the F drive here. So again, I do recommend keeping everything less than 1 terabyte per partition if you're going to do a bigger drive. Since this is only 250 gigs, I'm just going to do that. So you can mess around with whatever settings you want to change it to. Let's say I'm going to change it to this then. What you need to do is press the start button, and it's going to tell you that any changes you make to these partitions will be formatted. So press Y. It's going to format those, and then from here you can press the back button and press any button to quit. I normally press B. Now at this point, congratulations, you have successfully cloned over your hard drive and hopefully gained a lot more space. Now for part 2 of this, or the second method, let's say you don't care about cloning at all and you just want to get set up with your drive. Well, that's quite easy to do. What you need to do is take your HeXEn disk, pop it into your Xbox, close the DVD tray with the HeXEn disk in there, turn it off, and then completely remove your old hard drive and install the new one, and then turn on your Xbox, again with that new hard drive installed and with the HeXEn disk already in the tray. So if you have a hard drive that has not been partitioned at all, this is going to assume that you're popping in a blank hard drive or just a hard drive that has not at all been set up for the Xbox. You will get a message like this saying that you need to format your hard drive. So press both triggers and start to continue. And again, press both triggers and start to continue, and it will format everything. Now it's going to ask you if you have a F drive. If you are installing a larger hard drive, you want to say yes to this. So again, just pull both triggers and start. And at this point, everything is done here, so we can continue on. by doing the same button combination to continue. Once you boot up into your HeXEn menu here, just go down to number 3 for flashed chipped Xbox tools. Go to chipped flashed Xbox disk upgrades. Select new disk for whichever region you're in. And the password here is AYBX, and press start to accept. Now it's going to just let you know here what's going on with Xp Partitioner, which I'll be showing you. So you can just press OK again, and press yes to this. And finally, since we're not soft modded, we can continue. So now just hold down both triggers to start to continue. Do that again, let it format. And since we have a F drive, just do the same thing there. And now continue. What's going to do now is copy over the necessary files to your hard drive, so just let it do its thing for a few minutes. Now once all that is done, it's automatically going to bring you to Xp Partitioner. This screen can look a little bit spooky, but really all you need to do, first of all, don't touch any of the standard partitions, just stay in extended, but just press the A button for what you want to do. So since I have a 250 gigabyte drive, and again I mentioned that you shouldn't go over 1 terabyte per partition if you have a large drive. So as you can see, this will only use 120 gigs. That uses everything. That kind of splits it up as such. That evenly splits it. I'm personally going to go with adding everything to the F drive here. So once you choose something you like, press start, press Y to format, let it do its thing. And now with that done, press the back button. And when you're at this screen, press the B button. Now since you still have the disk in the drive, it's going to take quite a bit of time to reboot because it's going to boot back up into HeXEn. Once you get into that HeXEn menu, just remove the disk, turn off your Xbox, and turn it back on without the disk in the drive. So once all that is done here, congratulations. As you can see in the top right hand corner, you should have your default C and E drives, but you should now also have a F and possibly a G drive depending on your partitions. Now if you're like me, you don't really like how this is looking, so what I'm going to do is just change the screen calibration to use up all the screen, which you'll have to do because this is set up by default. And there you go. So congratulations, you now have your second method of setting up a new drive. Now with both of these methods here, first of all, the second method I showed with just using HeXEn and popping in and nuking your drive is much easier and much faster. However, I did include both methods on here again, just in case people already have a established setup they like on their original hard drive or whatever their source drive is, and they want to clone that to a different drive. However, if you don't feel like cloning it all, I absolutely recommend using the HeXEn setup to just pop it in, nuke your drive from the get-go, and set it up accordingly. So that's about it. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated. And if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too. And I'm actually going to ask you all this question that I had asked on my SoftMod hard drive upgrade install tutorial. If you have your old hard drive now, so assuming you've gone from an 8 gig to a whatever bigger storage drive here, what are you going to be doing with that initial drive, that 8 or 10 gig? Are you just going to recycle it, keep it as a backup, used as a coaster? I'd like to know what you all are going to do with them.